Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. In the 327 Star Corps, that quote can describe something extraordinary. A Roblox division, and one trusted officer who became remembered for almost destroying years of history. Before CISO, before platoons became companies, and before the 327th had the modern structure most people know today, there was Alexander the 7th. But he did not start as Alexander the 7th. He did not join as Commander de Vis. He joined on April 12th, 2020, under the username FunnyYouTuber200. That day, he posted his pledge to the Grand Army of the Republic and the 327th Star Corps. He promised to fight for the Republic, put in effort and dedication, become better day after day, and serve the 327th with trust and fairness. At that time, the 327th was still young. The division had only been around for a little over a month. A lot of the later systems, names, companies, and traditions were either unfinished or did not exist yet. Alex was there before all of that. And for a while, his story was not about controversy, it was about rising. That is what makes his story interesting. If Alex were just some random outsider who came in and caused damage, the story would be simple. But he was not random. He was one of the oldest members of the 327th. He had been around since 2020, had history in Bacta, and eventually reached XO, Commander de Vis. That means the controversy was not attached to some nobody, it was attached to one of the highest ranking people in the division. Chapter 1: Alex's role in Bacta. Alex became connected to Bacta early on. By April 29th, 2020, he was already being mentioned in Bacta chat. Placemans34 tagged him and said, "Here's Bacta chat. Damn, we're becoming active." That is one of the earliest signs of Alex being tied to Bacta. By mid-May of 2020, he was telling Bacta members to react to patrols and engaging in the community. It appears that he had already some kind of responsibility or authority inside Bacta. He was not just another person standing around in the background, he was directing activity. Alex was involved in Bacta's early activity. He was around for patrols, company updates, and morph changes during the period when Bacta and the 327th were still forming their identity. By June 27th, 2020, Alex had reached or was pushing towards CWO, Company Warrant Officer. Danny even joked, "You hoped for CWO, didn't you?" Which becomes the first clear promotion marker in Alex's known history. A month later, on July 31st, he hosted a 327th wide patrol. That is another important moment because hosting a wider 327th event shows that his authority had expanded beyond just Bacta. By that point, he likely had at least minor officer level permissions. It goes to show how much quicker promotions were able to be achieved in the earlier 327th. By August 29th, Alex had updated his roles in GAR. This marks the point where Alex became or was recognized as the officer of Bacta. So in only a few months, Alex had gone from a new recruit named FunYouTuber200 to a real officer inside one of the 327th earliest companies. Chapter 2: From FunYouTuber200 to Alexander. When Alex first joined, he was FunYouTuber200, but on December 5th, 2020, he changed his Roblox username to Alexander the 7th. All of those names point back to the same person. By the end of 2020, Alex already had a real history in the division. He had joined early, connected himself to Bacta, helped with company activity, announced new morphs, reached CWO, hosted wider events, became an officer, and started moving beyond the identity he first joined under. After that, the records become less complete. His exact path through 2021 is not fully preserved, so it would be wrong to pretend every promotion is known. But the direction is obvious. He kept rising. And that is what makes this work as a fall from grace story. Alex was not always just the guy connected to AA. At one point, he was a normal rising leader. He had a career. He had company history. He had people who trusted him. That makes what happened later matter more. Chapter 3: Alex as Commander Davis. By early 2022, Alexander VII had reached one of the highest positions in the entire 327 Star Corps, Commander Davis. That was not a small position. Commander Bly was the commanding officer, and Commander Davis was the executive officer, basically the second in command. In the Richard Plays 231 era, Alex was a part of the highest command structure in the division. This is where the story stops being just about one member rising through Bacta and starts becoming a warning about trust. A normal member can cause drama. A company officer can create problems. But an XO, Commander Davis, has the rank, trust, and access to create division-wide crisis. That is why the Alexander crisis became such a big deal. Alex was not outside the system, he was inside it. He had the title, he had access, he had the trust. And on March 24th, 2022, that trust became tied to one of the earliest major disasters in the 327th history. Chapter 4: The Alexander Crisis and AA Incident. On March 24th, 2022, the 327th group was admin abused through Alex's account, beginning what most of the community would later remember as the Alex AA. The 327th Museum display records the event as the mass recruitment of Alexander VII, stating that on March 24th, 2022, Alexander VII admin abused the group and accepted over 12,000 troopers. Alex was never fully confirmed or formally punished as a proven culprit in a way that completely ended the debate. However, the incident became overwhelmingly associated with him, as it was his account that kicked the majority of the 327th out of the Discord servers and deleted channels and history of the 327 Star Corps up until that point. Years later, veterans still referred to the event as the Alex AA, and the damage was massive. Accepting over 12,000 troopers created a huge artificial population spike and threw the group into chaos. For a division that relied on ranks, permissions, events, companies, quotas, and a clear chain of command, that kind of disruption was serious. To add to that, the Discord server of the 327 Star Corps was left in ruins, while the Roblox group was filled with troopers who had no loyalty to the Corps and were most likely underage randoms. This was not just some small mistake or random moderation issue. The person tied to it was the executive officer, Commander Davis, one of the highest ranking members in the division. The event was damaging beyond just the number itself. The 12,000 accepted troopers were obviously bad, but the bigger issue was trust. If someone that high up could be tied to something like this, then the crisis was not only about the group being damaged. It was about the 327th realizing that one of its own top leaders had become the name attached to the damage. Chapter 5: The Fallout. The next day, March 25th, leadership was already trying to deal with the aftermath. Mr. Jiggles announced that Alex had AA'd and that it would take time to rebuild the Discord and the division. The message also said Alex was gone. That immediate response matters. Even though the full situation became debated later, the leadership's reaction at the time was clear. Alex was blamed and removed as XO, and the division now had to begin reconstruction. On March 26th, Richard Plays 231 announced that things were going back to normal, excluding Alex being Davis. To fill the empty seat, Americanix was selected. At first, Americanix became Provisional Commander Davis. He was filling the position left behind after Alex's removal. On April 1st, 2022, Americanix became permanent Commander Divis. This is one of the most important parts of the story, because the Alexander Crisis was not just destruction, it was also succession. One leader fell, another one rose directly because of the empty space left behind. That is usually how these group disasters work. The incident itself gets the attention, but the aftermath changes the future. Chapter 7. Americanix takes over. The real winner of the crisis was Americanix. After replacing Alex as Divis, Americanix quickly became one of the most important figures in the 327th. On April 17, 2022, which replaced 231, resigned as Commander Bly. With Americanix already holding the Divis position, he became the next Commander Bly. That means the Alexander Crisis directly helped create the conditions for Americanix's rise. After Alex was removed from Divis, Americanix stepped into the role, became the stable replacement, and less than a month later took over as Commander Bly. This is why the Alexander Crisis should be treated as one of the most important early turning points in the 327th history. Not just because it was dramatic, but because it changed the direction of leadership. The AA accusation damaged the group, but the fallout shaped who would lead it next. Without that crisis, Americanix may not have risen in the same way or at the same time. Chapter 8. The Great Purge. The mass acceptance of over 12,000 troopers was not the only thing people remembered. Years later, old members described Alex as deleting channels, deleting roles, and wiping away parts of the old server. Cool MWNDE later called it part of the Great Purge. When asked what that meant, he explained that there was once an XO named Alex, and that when Alex resigned, he started deleting the channels and roles. Other members remembered it similarly. Red Orsum said Alex was the one who AA'd the server. I Like Tud said the old server had been abused, and that a new one had to be made. He misremembered the exact year, but the core memory was still the same. An old XO named Alex was tied to the destruction of the old server. Vaughn later said Alex deleted half the server, taking old COVID-era memories with it. That is why the incident stayed in the 327th memory for so long. For a Roblox division, a Discord server is not just a chat room. It's where the group's history is stored. Announcements, promotions, event logs, jokes, arguments, leadership decisions, and the names of people who were there at the time. When those channels disappear, part of the group's history disappears with them. And honestly, that might be the most damaging part of the whole thing. Ranks can be fixed, roles can be restored, a group can recover from a population spike, but deleted history does not come back. That is why Alex remembered not just as someone accused of AAing the group, but someone tied to the erasure of the 327th history. Chapter 9. Legacy. Even years later, Alex's name kept appearing. In 2023, Zircon mentioned an old off-duty uniform, and guessed it had been forgotten from when Alex AA'd as XO. In 2024, multiple old members still referred to the incident as the Alex AA, and connected Alex to the old server being destroyed. Red Orsum said Alex was the one who AA'd the server. I Like Tud remembered an old XO named Alex abusing the old server, even if the exact year was misremembered. Wild Buffalo also referenced Alex getting banned for AA and brought up Alex in old 327th history. In 2025, Vaughn said Alex deleted half the server, and that memories from the COVID-era 327th were gone. Then, in 2026, veterans were still using the phrase Alex AA. It is important because it shows how the community remembered the event. Even though the hacked claim existed, even though Alex was never fully confirmed or punished as the proven culprit, the dominant memory stayed the same. To most people in the 327th, it was the Alex AA. That became his legacy. Not his time in Bacta, not his early officer promotions, not even his rise to Commander Divis. The thing that people remembered the most was the day the group was thrown into chaos, and Alex became the name attached to it. And that is what makes the story kind of tragic in a weird way. Alex had a real rise. He had an actual history. He was not just some random troll. He was someone who had been part of the division for almost 2 years before the crisis. When people remember him, they don't remember the early Bacta work first. They remember the collapse. Conclusion. Alexander VII's story did not begin with the AA. It began on April 12th, 2020, when he joined the 327th as Fun YouTuber 200. From there, he became connected to Bacta, helped with company activity, announced new morphs, reached CWO, hosted 327th wide patrols, became an officer of Bacta, changed names, and eventually rose all the way to XO and Commander Divis. Then, on March 24th, 2022, the 327th group was AA'd, and over 12,000 troopers were accepted. Alex was never fully proven or formally punished as a confirmed culprit, but the incident became overwhelmingly associated with him. Most people in the 327th believed he did it, and years later, veterans still called it the Alex AA. The next day, leadership said Alex was gone, and the division had to rebuild. Americanics replaced him as Provisional Divis, became Permanent Divis, and then became Commander Bly on April 17th. In the end, Alexander Crisis became one of the earliest major turning points in the 327th history. It damaged the group, it erased old history, it changed the leadership chain, and it turned Alexander VII from an old Bacta officer and Commander Divis to the man most remembered for the Alex AA. Before the 327th had its modern company structure, before the later eras people remember today, there was Alex, the old officer who rose through the system and became remembered for breaking it.